So today we're going to start with the physical stretches and warm-up releases that you should start each of your sessions with. When we walk around in the normal day, we don't really have to think so hard about our posture and what we're doing. And as we talk more and more about breath, we'll talk more about why we have to pay so much attention to these structures and what they're doing. The bottom line is that any tension in the body is going to make it harder for you to breathe. Breathing is the fuel for singing, and everything is hard enough, and we don't want to make any of it harder than it has to be. So, kind of inviting your body into a singing alignment is a really important part of the process to kind of mark, okay, earlier today I was doing some other things and now it's singing time. And here's how I like to release and coordinate my body for the most efficient breath and sound. So the first thing I like to do is just sort of drop the head to one side. I'm thinking about bringing my ear towards my shoulder. And this helps to stretch all of these muscles in the side of the neck. And as we'll talk more and more about anatomy and things, there's like 30 different muscles that connect to your larynx, which is where sound comes from. And so releasing all these muscles helps us make sure that the larynx has a free range of motion and can move the way that it's designed to move. So as you get more comfortable with the exercises and you don't need the video anymore, you can decide how long to hold each stretch. I like to go for at least a couple of long breaths because then I'm doing a 2-for-1. And I'm not only releasing the body, but I'm also thinking about the use of my breath and using my breath to help me find more spaciousness in the body. And once you've given that a good go, you can come on back to the center. Pausing in between sides is really important because then you can really feel the difference from one side to the other. So I can already tell that I'm a little bit more coordinated on this side. I can just feel my body all the way down to my shoulder, where over here I kind of have like a dead space. Your mileage may vary. It's a little bit different. Each of us holds our tension in a unique place. Some of it's the neck, sometimes shoulders, sometimes back. You'll get to know this about yourself as you get to know your body better and coordinate it for singing. We'll go to the other side. A couple nice slow breaths while you just let everything expand and then release it. The goal with stretching is never to go as far as ow. You might feel sort of a gentle pull. So I'm a neck squeezer. I have a lot of tension here in my body. And so what I'm feeling here is kind of a gentle pull, but never so far that I'm hurting myself. That's not the goal of stretching at all. You'll sort of feel when the time is right to come on back to neutral. And then it's also really fun to find a nice gentle bobble on the top of your spine. Couple little circles like you're on the dashboard of a car just floating about. Then I like to roll the shoulders a little bit because, ooh, I don't know if you can hear my cracking and popping on the video, but again, this is another place you have enormous heavy bags that you carry around all the time, or maybe you're, I don't know, have a job that requires you to use your arms a lot. So this is another really common place. It's also great to do this before choir so that as you're holding your folder, you're not just like compounding the tension that you already have. And then once that feels nice and loose, I'm going to go back to the head a little bit. I'm going to start with this ear to the shoulder. I'm going to make semicircles, kind of like a little boat shape. So I don't like to roll over backwards because sometimes we can create a little bit of a crunch in the back of the neck, which doesn't feel great. So I like to lower my chin and bring my ear to this side, ear to this side, ear to this side. Just finding a little bit of movement, a little bit of ease. And then when you're done with that, give your jaw a little wiggle. Put the tip of your tongue behind your bottom teeth and then push the back of your tongue forward. We'll talk more about how important the tongue is when we get to articulation. It's a big deal. Next, we want to create a little bit of mobility in the ribs. And again, we'll talk way more about this as we start talking about breathing. So one of my favorite things for this is something I call the invisible ladder. So you're going to put your arms up and imagine that you are crawling up a ladder with just your arms. So see if you can keep your pelvis centered and stable and just let your upper torso move back and forth, side to side. Then when you feel like you've done this for a good little bit, back and forth, leave your ribs where they are and let your arms come down to your sides. You might feel a little bit of spaciousness or a little bit of a different feeling there. To take this a little bit further, put your hands on your hips and see how this creates a little bit of space between your arms and your torso. Take a couple of deep breaths through your nose and just get curious about how much movement is possible in your ribs. Again, this is not something we have to think about if you're just like watching TikToks or eating Frosted Flakes on your couch. But as we talk more and more about singing, we'll talk about the relationship of ribs and lungs to breath. So it's really great before you even start to just kind of wake your brain up to that level of movement and see what you get. Now that the ribs are feeling loose and free, we can make a couple little circles. So again, I'm trying to keep my pelvis relatively stable. Let's see if I can show you this a little better. And just make circles with my ribs. Because again, there's a lot of movement possible here, which most of us don't tap into on a regular basis. And then we're going to do the same thing with the hips. So we're going to see if you can sort of make a figure 8 with your hips. Because again, we basically want everything from your sitting bones to your eyeballs to be able to respond to your ideas about singing and the things that you want your body to do. Lastly, we're going to spend a little bit of time doing an exercise I call the banana back, just to kind of see the range of motion of your spine and help you find a neutral position for sitting and standing. So this is hard to show you with the video. It's just kind of in a funny spot. But what I'm going to do first is drop my chin to my chest and then start to follow that movement and curl around myself. So you might be able to see as I round forward, my back also rounds behind me. Then from here, I'm going to reverse it. I'm going to start with my eyes looking up toward the ceiling. I don't know if you can see that. Then my head follows my eyes. My neck follows my head. My torso follows my neck. And suddenly I'm making kind of a banana shape with my back. Then I'm going to start with the head again and look down towards the horizon and find a little bit of a neutral pelvis. Let me see if I can show you that again from another direction. I recommend doing this like 3 or 4 times because this is one of those tricky places of alignment that can really trip us up. Chin comes down first and look towards your own belly button and then just follow that movement around. Then when you're at the end of that range of motion, you're going to look up first. Head follows the eyes, neck follows the head, torso follows the neck, banana back, and then I'm going to look forward again and let my body respond to that movement so that I find a little bit more of a neutral pelvis. Yeah, it's a lot easier to feel this when you're sitting, I will admit. It's kind of tricky as you're standing, but we'll work on that together. So that is your little synopsis of movement that you can start every practice session with.